All right, guys, we are back with another reaction. This is Napoleon crosses the Alps, the road to Marengo. I was told this is the next one, and then after this one, I think Epic History TV is still working on one. So I'll just have to wait for that, and then come back to that when that comes out. And then also a kind of an update. My boom mic it stopped working, so we're just going to go with the old-fashioned headset. Audio might be a little scuffed. Might be, I guess it'll be sort of maybe weird sounding or loud or not loud enough. I don't really know. I kind of mess with the settings on OBS, but I can only do what I can do. So I'm excited to see this. The last episode, the coup, was great. Loved it, and I'm excited to see what happens next.
The year is 1800, and France has a new leader, 30-year-old First Consul Napoleon Bonaparte. 5 months have passed since the Brumaire coup cast France's directory into the dustbin of history. In its aftermath, Napoleon has skillfully outmaneuvered his co-conspirators. And in a new constitution, confirmed by a massively rigged referendum, he's been confirmed as First Consul. Alongside new consuls Cambaceres and Lebrun.
Okay, so what happened to the other two guys? The previous episode, there was 2 different guys here.
Napoleon wields enormous executive power and is eager to use it. First, he offers an amnesty to royalist rebels in the Vendée, helping to pacify the region and freeing up troops. Then he creates a new national bank to restore confidence and growth to France's dysfunctional economy.
Okay.
He strengthens the gendarmerie, the paramilitary police, and orders it to take ruthless action against bandits who infest the French countryside. And he transforms French government, personally appointing prefects to govern every French département.
Okay, we got prefects, ministers, the Senate, okay, council, sub-prefects, which are district governors. So department governor versus a district governor, okay. And then a mayor, well, that makes sense. Interesting. This is an interesting layout of various, positions. They all, I suppose, have their own they have their own things to do. This reminds me of a lot of Rome. I mean, like the tribute, Rome had tribunes. I don't know if they have prefects. Obviously, the Senate. Huh. Cool. Yeah. And it looked like, going back to that little referendum, that was quite lopsided. 3 million to like 1,000. So, and also another question I had in the Vendée, what was the relationship to the people in the Vendée to, I guess, the monarchy? Because it seemed like that was the area of France that was the most under revolt. And it took a long time to pacify the people in that area. So was the king like from that area, or why is that specific area of France the most like unruly?
As well as sub-prefects and even the mayors of larger towns. Each achievement is trumpeted by the few newspapers still allowed to print.
Wow.
And which are now entirely under state control.
Ooh, yikes.
But there is no reason to doubt Napoleon's immense popularity. and that his remarkable energy has begun to drag France out of chaos and torpor. However, his reputation has been forged in war, and with France facing another military crisis, he must quickly turn the situation around, or his rule could end as suddenly as it began.
All right, let's go. I offered peace to the Austrian Emperor. He did not wish it. We now have to take it by the throat. Okay. Sounds good.
France is threatened on two fronts by the armies of Austria, which has 200,000 men in the field. In Germany, France's most powerful force, General Moreau's Army of the Rhine, is poised to launch a counterattack. Moreau is a skilled commander with influential friends, who had himself turned down an invitation to lead a coup against the Directory. Napoleon, warily respectful for now, offers advice, but will leave Moreau to wage his own campaign. It is in Italy that Napoleon identifies the greatest threat and the greatest opportunity. Three years ago, Napoleon's stunning victories had left France dominating northern Italy.
Right.
But in 1799, forces of the Second Coalition, led by the great Russian general Alexander Suvorov, had won a series of crushing victories over the French. He had then been ordered to Switzerland. But before he could get there, General Massena's victory at Zurich thwarted coalition plans to unite their armies and staved off disaster for France. The unpredictable Emperor Paul, incensed by British provocations, had then withdrawn Russia from the Second Coalition.
I don't know a lot about the Tsars of Russia, but I've never heard of this guy. I don't know if that means anything, but it certainly doesn't sound like a Russian name. But maybe it is. Anybody want to give me any information on Paul the First?
But nearly 100,000 Austrians remain in northern Italy, under the aggressive and able leadership of General Melas. French forces, on the other hand, are scattered, outnumbered, and desperately short of supplies. It's nothing new for France's Army of Italy. But even the arrival of the great General Massena to take charge barely lifts morale.
Wow.
It is a fragile position. But secretly, Napoleon is planning a grand strategic maneuver to turn the tables on the Austrians and crush Melas's army. At Dijon, he has begun to assemble a new Army of the Reserve under the nominal command of General Berthier. Veterans and conscripts alike are scraped together from depots, provinces, and garrisons until a force of 60,000 men has been gathered.
Okay, there's some names on here that we've heard before. I know Murat has been pretty much front and center in most of these videos, especially like the last one, the coup. We've heard of Lan, and I don't know about the other ones though. And we've heard of Berthier as well.
A more cautious strategist may have chosen to reinforce Massena from the west, using established supply routes to shore up the front. But driving the enemy back on his own supply depots is likely to lead to stalemate. Instead, Napoleon plans to swing south, through the Alps mountains and emerge behind General Melas, cutting off his supplies and his escape. It is among the most daring strategic plans in history.
Yeah, I would assume.
But it will depend on secrecy and surprise, a swift and safe passage through the mountains, and for Massena to hold the line in Italy as long as he can.
Okay.
But while Napoleon's army is still assembling in France, Massena comes under heavy attack. On the 6th of April, General Melas launches an offensive, while General Ott makes a diversionary attack on Genoa. His main force moves to cut the coastal road at Savorna, driving a wedge between General Suchet's forces and General Massena.
Okay.
The French launch desperate counterattacks to break the encirclement, and General Soult wins a brilliant local victory over Ott at Monteface. But the French are heavily outnumbered.
Yeah, they're surrounded.
After 2 weeks hard fighting, Massena is forced to withdraw into the city of Genoa, where he is besieged by land and sea.
Wow.
General Suchet is harried all the way back to the Var River on the French frontier. News of the Army of Italy's defeat disturbs Napoleon. He is relying on Massena to fix Melas's attention. If Genoa falls before he arrives in Italy, he will be a sitting duck, trapped between the Austrians and the mountains. On the 6th of May, Napoleon travels to Geneva to join the Army of the Reserve.
Boy, it'd be really nice to have a navy right about now. I mean, how unfortunate that the British are just so good at naval warfare. It's just crazy how much a navy would be so very helpful. I mean, obviously be helpful in all the previous videos as well. But just looking at this map, even, down here, if you had a navy to supply troops or at least as an escape route, you can make it last down here.
And order the offensive to begin.
I like that quote.
The Alps.
Beautiful.
500 miles long, more than 100 miles wide. Their highest peaks, more than 15,000 feet.
Is it Matterhorn? Is that the highest one?
They can be traversed by several well-known mountain passes. But these are narrow, winding trails, vulnerable to avalanches, with no fodder for horses and mules. It's a daunting challenge for an army of 50,000 with 40 guns and hundreds of wagons. Napoleon has decided the bulk of his forces will cross at the Great St. Bernard Pass, at an elevation of 8,100 feet.
Okay.
On the 15th of May, General Lannes and his advance guard begin the climb. Even in late spring, the mountains are blanketed in deep snow. To reduce the risk of avalanche, they march at night and early morning. A strict silence is enforced. The only noise, the howling wind and crunching snow. The barrel of each cannon weighs around half a ton.
What?
General Marmont, commanding the artillery, comes up with the idea of laying them in hollowed-out tree trunks, so they can be hauled like sleds.
Wow. That's nice.
Lannes' advance guard snakes up the 8-mile trail. It's 5 hours of grueling uphill marching, and at several points the men are close to mutiny. But they make it. At 8,100 feet, they reach the summit of the pass and the St. Bernard Hospice, where food and rest has been prepared.
So this painting or drawing is interesting. So the hospice, I'm guessing, is, by looking at this, it wouldn't be a hotel. That wouldn't make any sense. It's like is a hospital. What is it? Is it just like who runs it? Like, who owns this building here?
The rest of the army completes the crossing over the next 10 days. It is a testament to General Berthier's planning that just 5 men and a single cannon are lost.
Wow.
Contrary to Napoleonic propaganda, the first consul made the crossing on a sure-footed mule, trailing the army, rather than leading it on a charger.
Whatever, details.
Lannes' advance guard presses forward into the Aosta Valley. They sweep aside small Austrian outposts, then surprise and scatter a whole battalion at Châtillon. But a nasty surprise awaits at Fort Bard. The fort, held by the indomitable Captain Bernkopf and 400 troops, dominates the pass with its heavy artillery.
Wow.
Infantry and cavalry can skirt around it by means of a goat path, but artillery and wagons will be seriously delayed until Fort Bard is taken. A first assault by French grenadiers fails, with 200 casualties.
Wow.
The fort remains defiant, and for Napoleon, the clock is ticking. In Italy, the French position is increasingly desperate. On the 15th of May, the garrison of Savorna surrenders. In Genoa, Massena conducts a brave and active defense, though in one sortie, General Soult is badly wounded and captured. But now, starvation looms. There are already reports of cannibalism.
What? Oh, God.
Napoleon cannot wait for Fort Bard to fall. The army must push on without its guns and baggage, and hope to capture supplies from the Austrians. On the 23rd of May, Lannes attacks the enemy at Ivrea, taking the town and citadel. 3 days later, he defeats General Hadig near the village of Romano.
Okay. Progress.
The Austrians fall back on Turin. With 30,000 French troops now pouring into Lombardy, Napoleon has done it. He has completed one of the most famous marches in history. Italy is wide open, and the Austrians are scrambling to respond.
Yeah, but they still have a lot of forces in the field. If you look, I don't know how accurate this is, but they are scattered, but there's a lot here. And I'm sure the French forces are tired, obviously. I've never hiked through a mountain, but I'm guessing it takes a lot of endurance. But yeah, that's crazy, dude. The cannibalism, is that true? I guess you got to do what you got to do. Maybe this is just me, but if it came down to it, I just expire. I just say, it is my time. I'm not going to eat. I'd rather go to the beach and drink seawater or try to find some, algae or sea, life to eat. But I guess you got to do what you got to do. Okay.
Melas quickly grasps the significance of Napoleon's maneuver. He immediately recalls Elsnitz's corps from the French frontier.
So Turin last time, that was the Piedmontese, right? Are they effectively non-existent? Like they have no standing army of themselves, or did they join the Austrians in like their armies? Or are they just neutral? They're just like staying out of it.
And sends his forces to guard the River Po crossings. He assumes the French will march to relieve Genoa. But despite the desperate plight of Massena and his starving garrison, Napoleon turns east, towards Milan. General Vukasovic holds the city, but heavily outnumbered, he retreats towards Mantua.
Oh boy, Mantua again.
On the 2nd of June, Napoleon enters the capital of Lombardy. But unlike the celebrations of 1796, this time, French troops are received in cold silence. Locals have not forgotten Napoleon's brutal crackdowns of the past.
Well, not only that, but I think on top of it, I'm sure, just like any peoples would be, the people of Italy, not, Lombardy, all the areas, they're just tired of probably seeing war in general, I'm assuming too. It's ravaged their homeland, it's destroyed their cities, it's disrupted their lives. First the French and then the Austrians and then the French and then the Austrians. It's like, at some point, you're probably just sick and tired of seeing anybody who isn't part of your local area, right? And it doesn't help, like they're saying, that the French were pretty brutal last time they were here a few years ago. So I'm guessing he's not going to have like a hero's welcome as a liberator, just from people's memory. People's memory is not that short. People can hold a grudge a long time. And on top of that, the Austrians fleeing to Mantua, as we saw in the Italy campaign, that's kind of a crap hole, man. I mean, to just be honest with you, it's not an area that I'd want to be in as a soldier, especially now that it's summer or spring or summer, I think. With all the freaking mosquitoes and the swamps. But to speak on the tactics a little bit, like the narrator saying, they was expecting him to relieve Genoa, and he did the thing that you didn't expect. And I think that's, as we've said before, one of the brilliant things of Napoleon. He's unpredictable. Any other general, 9 times out of 10, you probably would have been right in assuming that they would go relieve their comrades at Genoa. But you can't assume anything with Napoleon. Only thing you can assume with Napoleon is that you'll just never know what he's going to do. That's the only safe assumption. And obviously, we see here he's cleared out the Austrians pretty quickly. I mean, not that they had a huge force, but he's cleared them out pretty quickly here in northern Italy. And I think it said he had 30,000 troops, which is not a lot. I mean, not like what we saw earlier with, the Army of the Rhine under Moreau having 120,000. That's a huge army. I mean, 30,000's a sizable force, but it's not like huge. So the fact that Napoleon can do all this with a sort of smaller force is pretty impressive.
Regardless, in Milan, his army can finally rest and requisition much-needed supplies. 3 days later, reinforcements arrive from the Army of the Rhine, General Moncey's division, which has made its own arduous alpine crossing through the Gotthard Pass.
Nice.
The first consul is on the cusp of achieving his grand encirclement. Back in the mountains, Fort Bard finally surrenders. But its stubborn defense means Napoleon will be short of guns and ammunition in the days ahead. Then, on the 8th of June, disastrous news arrives. Napoleon has asked too much of Massena.
Yeah.
For weeks, Genoa has been a scene of utter horror. Several thousand civilians have starved to death or died of disease.
Man.
Along with 4,000 French soldiers.
That's rough.
General Massena, his own health broken and furious at Napoleon's failure to relieve him, negotiates an honorable surrender, which will allow his surviving troops to return to France.
I mean, what can you do? You got people eating people, according to these guys. I mean, at that point, it's put yourself in Massena's boots, you know. You want to obviously look after your troops, but you obviously see the suffering of the civilians of the city. And if they're correct in what they were saying, people eating other people. That's not something that generally anybody would want to see or have a stomach to see for very long. And so I can understand why he would be very upset, and I can understand why he would surrender, because at this point, surrender, even if you don't necessarily know what's going to happen to you, you know, the British, as much as they hate the French, it seems like they, at least the few times that we've seen a surrender on these videos, they treated them well enough. They just ship them back to France. I mean, at that point, it's like, oh yeah, it's a little dishonorable. We surrendered, the British won, or whatever, but at least we get to live, and we get sent back to our home country, and we can fight again later on. I would take that every time over, oh, okay, I need to live, so I have to eat this poor, like, civilian, or like, oh, this, you know, old guy died, so let's chew on his bones. It's like, you know, the choice probably wouldn't be too hard to be like, I'll take a ride on a ship.
The fall of Genoa frees Ott and 12,000 soldiers to march north to join Melas. Napoleon is determined that the Austrians will not now slip past him and escape his trap. And so he divides his army to cover all possible routes east. For once, it is Napoleon's forces that are overextended. And it is Lannes's advance guard that will pay the price. With 7,000 men, Lannes has secured a bridgehead across the river Po, near Belgioioso. On the 8th of June, he presses forward, intending to drive the enemy from the Stradella defile. But unknown to Lannes, he is on a collision course with General Ott's division, marching north from Genoa. He is about to stumble into a battle, outnumbered 2-1.
Wow, that is a crazy quote right there.
On the morning of the 9th of June, Lannes's advance guard fights a running battle with what it believes to be an isolated Austrian unit, driving it back towards the walled town of Casteggio. In fact, it is General Ott's advance guard. What rolling hills and tall rye fields hide from view is the rest of Ott's command, 16,000 strong, following up close behind. Around noon, the French spot Austrian infantry holding a ridge to the south. Assuming it's the enemy rearguard, Lannes orders a brigade to swing round and attack. Meanwhile, his cavalry continues to Casteggio. They scatter the enemy in their path and break into the town.
Really?
Only to be surprised and countercharged by a much larger Austrian cavalry force. On the heights, the French make steady progress until 4,000 Austrian reinforcements hove into view. Soon, Lannes' men are being pulverized by artillery fire. His force is hard-pressed everywhere, and still, enemy reinforcements continue to arrive.
Wow.
But Ott is cautious and holds back a large reserve. The broken ground leaves him unsure of enemy strength, and he has orders not to be drawn into a major battle. At 2 p.m., Lannes receives his own reinforcements. 6,000 men of General Victor's division.
Okay, that's good.
Lannes wastes no time. Victor's 43rd line renews the attack on the right. The Austrian line buckles, falling back to a small stream. The rest of Victor's men race towards Casteggio. Under a hail of cannon fire, their advance stalls. But the 6th Light Infantry is able to cross the Coppa River to the north. Around the same time, French infantry take Casa il Giardiana, splitting the Austrians in two.
Uh-oh.
Fearing he will be outflanked, General Schellenberg, commanding the Austrian centre, orders a slow withdrawal. Seeing this, Lannes sends the 96th Line forward to storm Casteggio. With his men tired and darkness falling, Ott orders a retreat to Voghera. The Battle of Montebello, as it becomes known, was a hard-fought soldiers' battle in which French determination triumphed in the face of Austrian numbers and artillery.
We've seen that before.
As Napoleon inspects the battlefield, he is greeted by an old friend, General Louis Desaix, who has escaped from Egypt during a temporary armistice.
What?
Just a year older than Napoleon, Desaix is another of France's brilliant young generals, who will play a crucial role in the days ahead. He is immediately given command of 2 divisions. Montebello is a glorious victory for Lannes. Napoleon will one day reward him with the title Duke of Montebello.
Nice.
But the larger picture is unchanged. Napoleon still desperately seeks his decisive battle, the victory that may end the war with Austria, and will surely make his position as first consul unassailable. But Napoleon allows fear of the Austrians' escape to dominate his thinking, and once more he divides his forces, just as Melas is ordering his forces to concentrate at Alessandria for battle. Napoleon has misjudged his opponent. He is headed towards a nasty surprise, a bloody battle that will cost him dear and threaten the future of the consulate.
Interesting, okay.
Napoleon needed a win in Italy. His last campaign, in Egypt, had been scuppered at the Battle of the Nile by the Royal Navy and a certain Rear Admiral Horatio Nelson.
I think we're waiting on this video.
We've got a great new video on this decisive naval encounter, featuring stunning original 3D graphics. And if you want to see it now, you can head over to Prestige streaming service Nebula. There you can also watch our video on the Battle of Cape St. Vincent, with Trafalgar coming soon.
Okay.
And we're far from the only history creator on Nebula. If you enjoy our videos on lesser-known conflicts, then you'll love Neo's series Underexposure.
We're going to let that play in the background while we talk. What an episode. And at the end there, it did seem like Napoleon was making some uncharacteristically strange decisions. Like they were saying his fear of them escaping was kind of clouding his judgment. Um, but I will say this, even with that being said, the quality of his um, subordinates and his captains and commanders and generals are top notch, man. Land did a great job not buckling at Montebello, and that really, I think, speaks volumes about the quality of the French military at the time. Apart from the soldiers and the training and all that stuff, which is probably pretty good, but the amount of various generals and captains and commanders that the French could pull from every which way um, is pretty astounding, actually. Like I was saying, it's tough when the the French are always seem to be the uh, on the offense, right? So you cross the Alps, you have to spend your soldiers' energy and you know food and all that stuff crossing mountains. Okay, so they're cold, they're hungry. Then you have to go to battle. Then you have to siege a fort. Then you have to go around the fort and then do multiple small skirmishes, and then you have to divide your force because you don't know where they're going. And then one of your generals gets caught up in a big battle, ends up winning, even though he's outnumbered. And now you're going back to the same plan of scattering your forces. Again, we'll see what happens in the next video. I think they're still working on it. It's not out yet, but I'm excited to see that. And overall, this was an interesting video, not necessarily for the fact that it was like, the battles were anything different than what we've seen. I'm going to pause it right here. But the fact that Napoleon is first consul, but he's still on the battlefield. Okay, so you're the lead, head guy of the government, right? But you're not sitting back in the capital, and even the battle, you're not necessarily um, sitting in some far off camp. I mean, you're still kind of close to the front, ordering around your generals, kind of making your plan of action, and then you have a situation like Genoa, where you have a general who is overwhelmed, has to surrender, right? So I think any other commander, if it wasn't Napoleon, would have been demoralized at that and probably would not have had the wherewithal to continue the plan that they wanted to implement in the first place. And that's one of Napoleon's strong suits. He's sticking to the plan. Whether or not that works out for him in every battle, that could be a discussion. But it seems to work out most of the time. And even when he has, all the stuff he's had to do to get here with less men, he still comes out the victor, 9 times out of 10. That speaks a lot to his skill as a leader and a tactician. And it didn't really talk about too much about morale or whatever. Obviously, it said something about like mutiny in the mountains, which I've never traveled in the mountains, but I'm assuming with all the snow and cold, I probably would be, if I was a soldier, a little miffed as well. It's like my feet are cold, my hands are cold. I'm tired of walking through snow. I'm tired of worrying about avalanches. I just want to get on to nice, even ground. So, it is what it is, but they made it through. So if anybody can give me any information on like the hospice, like I was asking about what that was about. And at this time, I'm really looking forward to continuing with the series I first started, which is like the Napoleonic Wars series. I had already, before I went back, I'd already pre-recorded 2 episodes. So I'll upload. I've already uploaded the first one, but I'll upload the second one now. Um, and then we'll go on there, and then I'll go back once these guys release like the ones that were missing. I'll go back and react to those ones as well. But I'm excited to get onto the big Napoleonic War playlist. So thank you guys for watching along with me, subscribing, commenting. Appreciate it. Go check out Epic History. Love these guys. I can't say enough good things about them. If you have the means to join their Patreon, do so. At the very least, subscribe to their channel. Show them love. I know you guys really like these Epic History and history in general. So if there's other channels you guys want to put in the comments that you think I should look at, whether it's a series or specific battle, feel free. All right, guys. See you in the next one. Peace.